Good morning. This is Nathan Moyer, the church moderator for Billings First Congregational Church. This morning I'm going to present to you some updates and a little bit of background about the Crossroads Committee that was formed in 2017. The purpose of this presentation will be to present the work from the Crossroads Committee, present the progress towards the recommendations made by that committee, and also discuss any unfinished elements regarding the Crossroads Committee recommendations. A bit of background about the Crossroads Committee. It was started in 2017 and led by High Plains Architects via our own Ed Gulick. The goal was to establish a roadmap and a strategic plan for the future of Billings First Congregational Church. The church congregation at that time was a bit fractured and lacking a unifying vision for what direction they wanted to see the church go. So, High Plains Architects developed a comprehensive assessment and plan to help chart the future for the church. The assessment included needs of the community, the advantages of the location, including walkability and urban growth, and any challenges that might be anticipated for making major changes like this. Members of the Billings faith community, pastors at other churches, including our sister church in Mayflower congregation, as well as community leaders and other leaders from charitable and nonprofit organizations were interviewed as a part of this assessment. Some of the people that were spoken with, or organizations that were talked to about this, were the Yellowstone County AIDS Project, Family Promise, headed by our own Dan and Penny Struckman, the Downtown Billings Alliance, which was headed at the time by our very own Lisa Harmon, and then also members from this congregation. Here's an example of some of the assessment work that was done. I'm going to leave this up for a minute for people to take a look at. As you can see, it describes a major shift to embrace walkable downtowns and sort of describes the current flight to urban areas from the rural communities that we're seeing around the globe, but a lot in Montana and nationally as well. Now, the caveat to all this was done before COVID-19. So we still don't know what kind of impact that's going to have on the future, especially in regards to economic and demographic trends that were occurring in 2017 and 2018, 2019. We, I think, can cautiously assume that things are going to return back to normal and that the path that we were on will continue. This is just sort of a detour for a little while. However, it's impossible to ignore the economic and just personal devastation that this disease pandemic has wrought on our country and our communities. So continued growth in downtown and urban areas is an underlying assumption of this assessment. There was also a full review of the building infrastructure, including the HVAC system, the efficiency of the building, carbon footprint, and a cost analysis about how much upgrades to the building would run and the potential return on investment from those. There was a lot of work done over a long period of time, many conversations and interviews, but I think I can safely distill most of it into two baskets, if you will, one of them being ministry, the other being infrastructure. So in ministry, what we see is sort of the aspirations of the community, of the faith community of Billings First Congregational Church. And to distill it down to some high-level topics, what we wanted to see were open and welcoming church building environment, space for performances and music, visibility, improved entrances and access from the street, youth ministry, food justice, housing, shared spaces for community gathering, art, or other religious groups, a welcoming environment for our American Indian and Alaska Native brothers and sisters, and possibly some showers for family promise. Infrastructure then sort of represents the tangible steps that have to be made to support those ministerial aspirations. So, renovating the kitchen to support food justice and community events, adding a daycare center, remodeling the sanctuary and adding new AV equipment to make it a more welcoming environment and to make it somewhat more modular for different events and different groups. A dedicated space for the youth, an outdoor garden, accessible meditation spaces, space for art exhibits, improved parking, improved energy efficiency and reduction of carbon use, and increased use of unoccupied space for rental income. Again, I apologize if this slide is a little bit hard to read, but this was taken from the assessment from the Crossroads Committee work group. And it sort of gives a line-by-line demonstration of the types of things that we can fix and things that we can improve and what kinds of cost savings it would yield for the church. So now that you have a bit of the background for where all this started from, or where it all came from, now I'd like to talk about kind of where we've gotten with all this. So what we've accomplished so far, we renovated the upstairs area for a Western Native voice. Now this may not seem like a big deal, but it actually meets a lot of those things that we were talking about by opening space for a Native American political advocacy group. We are very much extending a welcome to that community. We're making it known that this is a place that that they can be supported, and that we're invested in the justice that comes along with those types of issues, and that it provides some of that rental agreement and some of that space that can be utilized to help offset some of the costs of keeping the building open. We also did the same thing for 406 Pride. Again, this is a pretty big project. I'm sure most of you have seen it by now. It's a beautiful space. And we have, again, extended our space, our building, and held it open to the LGBT plus community to provide a safe, welcoming space for them. We have also renovated an area for the children and added the daycare center. We have been expanding our youth program. We painted rainbows on the doors on 27th Street to make it very obvious, both where we are and who we are. And then the back part of the sanctuary was renovated a bit as well to provide space for yoga classes. And in the pre-COVID period, Pastor Lisa was doing in-person classes there. Since COVID, and we've had a lot of the building shut down and social distancing, she's been doing a lot of that virtually. There have been round dances and different American Indian celebrations in Fellowship Hall. We've improved our partnerships with Western Native Voice, Rocky Mountain tribal leaders, and other American Indian advocacy organizations. Started the Pocket Garden on 3rd Street and have re-roofed the building. So these are all pretty substantial changes that have been made to progress down the path that was established by the Crossroads Committee in 2017. So aspects of the Crossroads Committee that are still in process include major upgrades to the HVAC system. Now, Tom Howard has worked pretty much tirelessly over the years to keep that system up and running, and there have been some improvements made to it since the Crossroads Committee's recommendations were put out. However, as you could see from the original planning documents, it called for a major overhaul of that system, which would be a very high dollar item, and it will require a lot of further planning. COVID-19 has really not helped us with any of those future progression or projections rather. So we're going to continue to move in that direction and continue to plan for a major overhaul of that system. However, it's just going to take a very careful, slow planning process to make sure that we can afford it and that it's going to really do all the things that it was projected to do. The kitchen remodel is another one of those areas that is still in the works. It has taken a lot longer than any of us anticipated, but we are still moving on it. Again, COVID-19 really delayed a lot of this type of work, and we've also had some unanticipated setbacks just from regulatory red tape that we weren't really thinking was going to be an issue, but we are still moving in that direction. In terms of upgrades to the AV system in the sanctuary, that's taken on a bit of a different dimension now that we've had COVID-19. We're moving towards upgrading things in terms of being able to provide digital content related to our in-person services, or rather pre-recorded services. Jake Dunow, one of our own members, has been an integral part of that, and so even just contracting with an individual to help us improve our IT infrastructure has been a big step in the right direction. And we'll just kind of have to wait and see how things go as we reopen, what the needs are going to be, especially in light of social distancing and any of the new recommendations that may be coming out for faith communities in relation to COVID-19. And then finally, there was some discussion and initial recommendations to have an actual facilities manager position, paid staff to do a lot of the work that Tom Howard does for us. And I believe we are still interested in that. We're still moving in that direction. But again, just needing to make sure that we can balance our budget and make sure we do it in a way that's financially responsible and sustainable for the health and life of the church. Next steps in terms of progressing down the plan that was laid out for us are a bit murky, to be honest. And again, I hate to continue to sound like a broken record, but this pandemic has really changed a lot of things about how we operate. And so this has been a very tumultuous year to begin with. And on top of all that, Reverend Mulberry left to pursue another opportunity in Michigan. And so we're very grateful that he's back with Tracy and that they are continuing the good work that they do in other communities. But it has created some challenges in continuing to move forward with these plans. There's a lot of uncertainty in the future about what in-person church is going to look like. So again, that's just sort of stalled some of that discussion. Some other areas that are still also a bit up in the air include the Midas building. So in the original planning, there was a lot of discussion about purchasing that lot, raising the building, adding either some parking spaces, living spaces, or a combination of the two. This appears to be a really big project. The need is well established. Both the parking for church and transitional housing are still major issues in the community. The uncertainty comes in with the financial health of the church and our ability to leverage our endowment for that purchase, and for what the future holds for actual in-person church services. Again, within relationship to COVID-19, this is changing rapidly. So it's going to be difficult to anticipate exactly how many parking spaces we're going to need in the future if we're going to be doing more things virtually. Another area that is sort of in a murky gray area is the major interior remodeling for spiritual or community spaces. Again, we don't know how long COVID-19 is going to be around, how long it's going to be before we get a vaccine, how long we're going to have to continue to socially distance ourselves, and what impact that's going to have on interior design, even down to the materials, the layout, all that will be impacted by COVID-19. So this is sort of, it's on the radar still, but we're not moving in any tangible way on this right now. And we're going to continue to probably plan carefully to determine the best path forward on that. And then finally, the 3rd Street entrance was a big thing that was talked about in the original planning documents. And it is unclear, again, whether or not that's going to be something that we're going to need to pursue, or if the rainbow doors that we see on that corner of 27th and 3rd kind of meet that need. So to sum it up, the Crossroads Committee put in a lot of work in visioning and planning and analysis to chart a new course for the future of the church in 2017. A lot of work has been done to progress down that path. There's still a lot of work that remains. COVID-19 has made things very uncertain and has added new challenges, but also some new opportunities. And the church leadership here will continue to move cautiously on that course charted by the Crossroads Committee. If you have any questions or would like further discussion about it, please feel free to bring that up in the virtual coffee session afterwards, or you can always email me with the church directory. Thank you.